and welcome to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. In this podcast, we discuss mystical works of literature and how they relate to recovery. We hope you enjoy today's podcast episode.
Hello, this is Buddy C. Welcome to the Tao of Understanding Recovery Podcast. Today we have Brian and Drew and Oscar. Good to have you guys. We'll be talking about the 79th verse of the Tao Te Ching and how it relates to our recovery. My recovery is alcoholism. Been sober for several years. Found out years ago that the study of the Tao spoke to me in a very special way. Started studying the Tao, started an online meeting in a recovery group I was involved in way before COVID. And the meetings went so well talking about the Tao Te Ching, which is what we're discussing here today, that we started producing it as a podcast. And this is the Tao of Our Understanding podcast. If you go back to our early episodes, they were actually episodes from the group that we were in. And eventually, later on, we left the group and continued the podcast. So here we are. I will talk about one resource at buddyc.org. I pinned just a interpretation of how the Tao Te Ching spoke to me into my recovery. Published the book, Powerless But Not Helpless. It's been a couple of years ago now, 3 years maybe. And you can download a free PDF of the book at buddyc.org. You don't have to leave your email or any of that stuff. You can just go on and download. No hooks. If you want a paperback, those are sold at Amazon. Okay. The 79th verse of the Tao Te Ching, I kind of titled this the resentment verse in the Tao Te Ching. How to deal with resentments. One of the translations really covers that well. So let's do our readings. Let's start with you, Drew, with Stephen Mitchell.
All right. Verse 79.
Yes.
Failure is an opportunity. If you blame someone else, there is no end to the blame. Therefore, the master fulfills her own obligations and corrects her own mistakes. She does what she needs to do and demands nothing of others.
Thank you. Oscar, you'll read us Jonathan Starr?
Yes, thank you. After settling a great dispute, some resentment is sure to remain. Being content with what you have is always best in the end. The sage always assumes the depth as if holding the left side of a contract. He gives and wants nothing in return. One with true virtue always seeks a way to give. One who lacks true virtue always seeks a way to get. To the giver comes the fullness of life. To the taker, just an empty hand. Though the Tao of heaven has no favorites, it always sides with one who has a pure heart. Thanks.
That's good, isn't it, Oscar?
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Brian, you're going to read us, Derek Lynn today?
Derek Lynn. After settling a great dispute, there must be remaining resentments. How can this be considered good? Therefore, the sage holds the left part of the contract, but does not demand payment from the other person. Those who have virtue hold the contract. Those without virtue hold the collections. The heavenly Tao has no favorites. It constantly gives to the kind people.
Thank you. Do you have an explanation there in the comments about the contract? I was going to look it up, but if you have it.
Yeah, let's see. One thing that stands out here to me, it says tax collectors. Tax collectors take from everyone but give to no one. Unlike them, Tao cultivators hold the left half of the contract. This means that we are without expecting anything in return. When we do that, the Tao sees it that we are amply rewarded despite the complete lack of expectations.
There's another explanation of that. They used to take a piece of wood or like a bark and break it, and you would have two parts. That's what the making whole is for.
Buddy, it also has, it talks about the left part uh, means the lender's copy. It refers to the ancient Chinese method of keeping track of debits, which existed even before the invention of paper.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Sorry, I was confused. Lender and borrower would take a piece of wood or tree bark and carve a record of their transaction on it. Then they would split it down the middle. The left part would go to the lender, the right to the borrower.
And then when it was whole,
Yeah.
would be when the contract had been satisfied, the note. And so the lender would give that part. And if they'd fit together perfectly because they were broken, the same piece of bark broken. So you would take and fit them together and it's made whole.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, in legal terms, if you've done much real estate, which I did for years, if you're made whole, you've heard that phrase. That's what it's talking about with any kind of loan. So he's saying that the one that has virtue holds the left side but does not demand payment. So instead of thinking money and loans, let's think in our daily walk with this. So could you look at that as the one with virtue, even if you wrong that person? Well, like we talk about with sometimes with resentments when we work, our fourth and 4 through 9, there are situations where we were wronged. Most everyone's got situations in their inventory where they were actually wronged. You can still have that. That's it. That's part of life. You're gonna get shit on sometimes. There's no way around it. That's life. There's gonna be things that happen that are not fair. Now, are we gonna continue to try to extract from life payment for that? That I'm not able to extract. That's why I get angry and resentful and all the associated fears with that is because I'm trying to extract something I cannot. So can I just let that go? Can I not demand payment? That was my problem. I kept demanding payment that would not come.
I think another use of that in daily life is when you do something nice for somebody, do something kind, and keep a tally of it, and then use that later to manipulate them into doing something for you. I did this for you, 2 weeks ago, or a year ago, or 5 years ago, and now I need you to do this for me. So the whole giving without receiving that we see over and over in this book.
I had a friend that had a wealthy mother-in-law like that. She'd do nice things and then she'd want to, now you remember when I did such and such for you? I mean, she would just lay it out there. But finally one of his kids says, Grandma gonna buy you a car? He said, I don't want Grandma to buy me a car. It got to the point it poisoned everything that Grandma would like to do for them because it always had hooks.
Mm-hmm.
Loving with hooks. You do those things and you got a hook there. You want to pull something back,
Covert contract.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Let me read Wayne Dyer, which based his off of his interpretation off of Jonathan Starr. Actually, that's how I found Jonathan Starr, was a credit to Jonathan Starr in the Wayne Dyer Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, which I would have thought it would be a better title, Change Your Actions, which change your life. I don't know. That's what we learn in recovery, right? It doesn't matter what I think. What matters is the actions I take, because my actions will change me. In that last Well, I'll just read the whole. I think it pretty much parallels except the last word. After a bitter quarrel, some resentment remains. What can one do about it? Being content with what you have is always best in the end. Someone must risk returning injury with kindness, or hostility will never turn to goodwill. So the wise always give without expecting gratitude. One with true virtue always seeks a way to give. One who lacks true virtue always seeks a way to get. To the giver comes the fullness of life. To the taker, just an empty hand. Now it was the one in the middle, the little phrase in the middle. Someone must risk returning injury with kindness. It takes vulnerability, doesn't it,
Mm-hmm.
Oscar?
Yeah, it's vulnerability, but it's also invulnerability. So there is the spiritual realm and the earthly realm. And with giving and receiving on a earthly realm, I give something away and then you have it. But in the spiritual realm, giving and receiving is the same. So if I give you my love or my kindness, I will receive it at the same time. So when people are fighting with me and I stay kind and I am kind with a pure heart, Jonathan Stausman's a pure heart. When I do it with a pure heart, I'm in a way invulnerable because people can do anything with me, but I stay kind. So plus I give this kindness to them, and at the same time I receive it. So I feel this kindness all the time. So I feel a lot better than I feel angry all the time. When I'm angry at people and I give them my anger, I don't lose it, the anger. I'm poisoned with it. So what you give is what you receive. So as long as I'm kind and loving and tolerant, full of tolerance to people, that's what I will receive immediately, not from them, not like back from those people. That I can't expect that one. That's what I can't expect. If I am kind, then they are kind to me too. That's a misthought, I think. Sometimes it happens, and often it happens, but not per definition. But what I receive, per definition, is the love I give because I feel it, and that's a really it was a really eye-opening for me in the process of doing the steps the first time, and the whole goal of the big book. Okay, we want to become loving and kind to everybody. That's the goal of the big book. And that's a really amazing goal because it's not only for the people around me. It's very nice for the people around me, definitely. But what I give, I will receive too. And so I am in a state of inner peace when I give love to other people. Beautiful.
You got me thinking about something, Oscar. I've never thought in a particular way about this. Okay, I know none of this, first of all, none of this means you're a pushover or you let people run over. None of that stuff. We'll address that in a few minutes. But first, okay, I had realized that when I show compassion, the compassion I receive is not from that person. Sometimes they're kind back and sometimes not. That's the risk of them being kind or not. That's the risk. But what we learn is it's really no risk at all because what we receive is not dependent on their actions. Because
It's inside.
that seems to bubble up and come from within.
Yeah.
Now, this is the part I hadn't thought of before, and I don't know if I'll just throw it out there. If I am not receiving from that person in return, is it really that person that I'm doing this for? In other words, if I can give or act compassionately in such a way that I don't do it personally, my actions are not personal toward them, I have a much better chance of their actions not being personable to me. If that, I don't know, there's something there. I don't know. That's because I always felt like if I was, if I didn't like Drew, I do like Drew, even though he's from Texas, I do like him. What it is, I wish I had that kind of pride. I have a little of it, but nothing like they have. Okay, so uh, when I'm kind to Drew, I know that if I didn't like him and I was kind to him anyway, or I prayed for him, or whatever I did, I had a little resentment and I was working the program to get rid of that resentment. I know that my praying for him isn't going to change his life, it's going to change me because it's really a way I step out of the way and let go of a little control. So if I'm practicing page 552 in the fourth edition of the big book, then I know that what I receive for that action is not Drew. It could be anybody that I resent. If I did the same things, I would receive the same relief. So what if I could look at my actions toward Drew as not being personal either? Like it's just how I live. So I would not get caught up in what Drew, I'd get caught up less in how Drew responds or what Drew even does to begin with. It goes back to that not taking anything personally in either direction, right? Don't think of what you're doing personally and don't think of what actions that you feel are towards you personally. I don't know. I need to sit with that a little bit. Yeah, guys, let's just use the Wayne Dyer to discuss. That seems to have a good bit of meat to it. After a bitter quarrel, some resentment remains. Yeah, almost always for me, if I'm not careful, I'll hold on to a little bit that I have to work to let go of. Yeah, that's if I feel I'm wronged. A lot of times, if I have a small resentment, even a big one, and it's especially bad in the small ones because I have a tendency not to really put the effort toward the small one, just tolerate the small resentments, not really work the program on them when they're not that big, but they end up taking a lot more headspace sometimes than the big ones because the big ones I hit and take care of. That seems to be the way I work. So I need to be conscious if I have some resentment remaining, I need to deal with it. I need to use the tools in the program. Uh, Talk to my sponsor about it, get a plan, work the plan. One thing I used to do was keep a list of my resentment list. And when I started my meditations or my devotions in the morning, the first thing I did was do my prayers for my resentment list, the ones that were on there. And with time, all of that just went away. I haven't had a list in years. So occasionally I'll have something come up that I have to pay attention to, but not for as long. And the solution's always the same. It never changes. Have to apply those tools. Being content with what you have is always best in the end. That sounds like acceptance to me. I can't be in acceptance if I'm holding resentments. It's not possible. If you guys have figured out how, let me know, but it doesn't work that way for me. Oscar?
Sometimes I try to accept the resentment, but then it vanishes also. So when there is a resentment, especially justified anger, which is the worst, and I can't get rid of it. In the end, I remember, oh yeah, I just sit and accept the resentment. It's there. So it's there. Why? I can't push it away. I don't have to do anything with it. It's there. I don't have to make it grow. I don't have to. I don't have to. How do you say this in English?
Right.
To cultivate the anecdote.
Okay.
You don't have to keep on thinking about it, but the feeling is there, and that really helps me to by in the process of letting go, accepting that it's there. So it's again acceptance and surrender. That's probably when you accept and surrender, you are content with everything, whatever it is you have.
So is it like allowing yourself to feel what you're feeling rather than
Yes.
pushing against it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of for me too, that's part of the process of getting over that resentment. Or let's say it's anger. I've talked a long time ago that if I'm feeling something that seems to be a negative emotion, something that's disturbing me, I will just verbalize what it is. Like my accountant, I said, it's in January. I'm not doing my taxes till August, but I'm sitting there steaming about how he's going to screw me on my on my fees, blah blah blah. If you do some corporate stuff and different things, it can add up. So, yeah, he's going to do, and I'm just sitting there steaming. And I just read the "Letting Go" by David Hawkins, letting go, the pathway to surrender by David Hawkins, and he was talking about this just a week before. We were doing a book study on it. I said, "Oh, I'm angry. I can try what David Hawkins said." I was kind of excited. I said, "Oh," because I didn't have those kind of emotions very often at this point in my recovery, even though this was several years ago. I said, "Oh, good. I can try what he said." I said, "All right." So I just verbalized. I said, "I'm angry at he's going to screw me on my taxes. I know when I file." And all of a sudden, it just started leaving just that quick. I was like, "That's leaving too fast. I want to enjoy that some more." And it left that quick, like literally within 60 to 90 seconds. I couldn't believe it. I was like, so I've been resisting these emotions because I'm not supposed to be feeling this way. I'm not saying, go, you know, do damaging, you're angry about something with your car, so you go out and take a ball bat to it. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just allowing yourself to feel whatever it is you're feeling. And for me, when I do that, which I do now with anything that comes up, if I if I'm right sized about it, it just starts dissipating. Some things not that fast, but it definitely is part of the process. Any comments? So in the end, we want to be content. In the end of all of this, we're looking to live in acceptance, really. Okay, so that's the end, even though it's in the first stanza. Someone must risk returning injury for kindness, or hostility will never turn to goodwill. We talked about that. So the wise always give without expecting gratitude. And that's what you were talking about, I think, Drew, when you were talking about doing things and, you know, wanting something, that hook, wanting something in return, because even expecting gratitude is a hook. So that just says the wise person gives without expecting. The one with true virtue, so I think it's taking it up a step. The one with true virtue always seeks a way to give. It's one thing to give without expecting gratitude. It's another to always seek a way to give. I can see that. A lot of times I have that attitude of wanting to give in situations. I remember the first time I noticed it, I was out to eat with some folks in the program, and I wanted to buy everybody's meal. It wasn't because I wanted some kind of reward. It was like the natural thing for me to do. I'm not made of money, but you know, and in the past I would have never done something like that. I would have been looking the other direction. You know, I've got this 100. I really don't want to break it. Who can pick up my breakfast? I was that guy, right? And so I didn't want to think I didn't have any money, but I really didn't want to pay for it either. So yeah, a way to give. Oscar?
I saw this quality in the man I asked to be my sponsor. I saw what I saw, and I was in early recovery, and I saw he was, first of all, he had inner peace, but I also saw that he was giving all the time, just kindness, and even his peace he gave away without giving it away. And he was always generous and always brought in cake and always giving. And I thought, this is so admirable. I want I want what he has. Really, literally, the the recognition of this without knowing how it works or without knowing the solution or without anything. I just saw it. The and it's such a powerful way of life. And now still so often when I'm too much in my head or I have too much of trouble or whatever, kind of not in the moment, and I recognize it, I go back by, okay, how can I serve this moment? How can I serve this moment in whatever way? How can I make this a more loving, nice, uh, peaceful moment for everybody who's here, or just the moment itself when I'm alone? How can I make it more peaceful? Well, I can give my peace to the moment, even when I'm walking alone on a beach.
You can open your heart, can't you?
Yeah. So how can I serve? How can I serve is a huge question in my recovery.
For me, I just break that down to how can I be helpful right now?
Yeah, that's the
Can I
same.
do?
Yeah,
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
yeah.
Thank you, Oscar. Drew?
Yeah, the whole giving without expecting anything in return. That reminds me of what you were saying earlier about the difference between having the good intentions in your mind and actually putting those into action. And I know with me, it's I carry good intentions all the time, but when it comes time to just willingly let somebody in front of me in traffic, or let somebody go ahead of me in the line at the grocery store, um, that, or in pickleball, let somebody take the next game, and I'll sit out for a while till the next one opens up. That's uh, putting it into action. That's where it's tough, because I just know that if I let this person in front of me at the grocery store, they're going to be the ones who argue about, well, this coupon should have been accepted, and I also need you to go get cigarettes for me, and they're going to have trouble with the credit card, and it's just going to take forever. So that's good to have the intention, putting it into action. Um, that's not a struggle, but it takes some patience, it takes some humility, it takes some um, some traits that I I'd like to cultivate a little more. So that's something that I'll try to put into practice after this meeting, is looking for situations where I can let somebody go ahead of me, where I can um, it's nothing for me to hold the door open for somebody. That might delay me by going in by a few seconds, but actually letting somebody go in front of me that could delay me for a while. I like to think of myself as a patient person, and um, I don't like to test it. So that may be something that I'll try to consciously work on a little bit more.
That's the whole idea that you pray for patience, and what do you get? You get a line to stand in, because it works patience in you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brian?
I was just thinking, it's been a couple times that I've been in line lately at Kroger, and I've got behind the coupon person, and they're always a cash payer with exact change, or they write a check, and it's just like we get through the coupons, and then it's like out comes the wallet, the dollar bills, and then they're counting their change, and it's just like it could be any other way. But fortunately, I just stand there, you know.
Well, I have to go to Walmart this afternoon, so
Yeah.
bless me, Jesus.
This is at Kroger. I'm not quite slumming it at Walmart.
You'll have plenty of opportunities to test your patience and resentments at Walmart.
I've been doing good at Walmart lately.
Yeah, I actually enjoy going.
Now, if what I found out, Drew, was I don't have to look for those things. If I'm just open to being helpful, what needs to arise just arises. I don't have to try. It's one thing I can put down in the trying not to try. I don't have to do that.
Yeah, you're making it about you at that point.
Yeah, you're putting all this self effort. Actually, it's a really good practice in my helpfulness to give me an example of how to behave in other areas of my life. Because if I'm just open to being helpful, situations will align that I can be helpful. If I take that same attitude, and what am I doing? I'm just available. I'm just ready, doing what's in front of me to do. Can I take that same attitude in relationships and business with everything? Am I not just to be helpful in all those things and do what the third step talks about, turning our will and life, our cares over, letting those things go? Because that's really doing that, isn't it? Because I'm carrying those cares around if I'm sitting there trying to orchestrate making something happen. Like my sponsee one time, I called him. I said, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm trying not to try." I'm like, "Yeah." So keep on. That's a good one. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand God. Yeah, turning all that stuff over. That's how I do it. Okay, the one with true virtue always seeks a way to give. One who lacks true virtue always seeks a way to get. I have been that person and I see those people. Sometimes I'm that person in one sense of life, and sometimes I'm the other person in another sense of life. To the giver comes the fullness of life. So it looks like it would be the opposite, but to the giver, I have comes fullness of life. To the taker, just an empty hand. Looks like the giver would have the empty hand and the taker would have what they're looking for, but it's not that way. It's the opposite. Another example of paradox. And part of the fullness of life is being content with what we have.
The glass is half full and not half empty.
Or can you accept it being half empty, Brian? Like Oscar was talking about.
That's true.
You know?
Damn, you cut me off at the pass. That's
Sorry.
true.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
I never thought about that before, though.
That's a good way to look at it.
It's just half, but it's exactly what it is. And it's always more than it's always enough, and enough meaning it's always exactly what I need, not lacking in any way.
Yeah. It may be half empty, but my glass may be bigger than the other guy's, and I've got more in it.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just what it is.
Yeah.
See, for me, the satisfaction is not in the amount in the glass. The satisfaction comes for me in, first of all, seeing the glass as it is. Secondly, whatever's in it is a gift to me. It's not really mine, as in another way that I can live without taking life personally. It's just what I need for today. It's not really buddies. I don't need to put my cat claws in it and not let go.
Buddy, I I made a comment to a friend the other day that, and I actually even have a picture that I put together on my surrender board collage that I did in my closet. But I got a check in at work, and man, anytime I start trying to grab that money, like wanting to put it in my pocket, and I'm like, I'd rather just get these bills paid, and it's like trying to hold on to water. It just, you can cup it in your hands, but it just runs through your fingers. And I guess that's some control on my part. Fortunately, I don't do that anymore as much, but I don't know where that came from, but it just be content. Be content. Thanks.
I have an affirmation that I use. I'm open to what would allow me to be of my highest and best use spiritually, mentally, and physically, rather than being open only to what I think I need spiritually, mentally, and physically. It's a shift to go from what I think I need to what would allow me to be of my highest and best use, because I would always feel I would get what I think I need. But what about taking that a step further? What about moving from the wise one to the one with true virtue? Why don't I become more concerned about, and this is what the shift, one of the shifts, more concerned about being of my highest and best use. And really what it is me allowing that whole thing to happen. Because if I'm not open to being of my highest and best use, I don't think I will see opportunities, or I will fight against opportunities where I could be used. And it's in that use, which goes back to what we're talking about, that is where my peace and joy are, where my contentment is.
Not in fear.
Yeah. Yeah. So one takeaway for me today would be today I am looking for ways that I can give in all my actions. That would be one affirmation you could get from today. I will look for a way to give in every day, like in the moments that come up. Or you could rephrase that. How can I be helpful? That really is it for me. That's how I have to phrase it, because if I go into all that other stuff, I start getting this spiritual persona about the thing, and it makes it less useful, less practical, because what we're talking about is very practical. And sometimes, I mean, I'll get in a situation. What happens if I don't take care of these little emotions, these little things, little resentments? They'll build up and I will explode when it's not really the thing that is making that I'm showing the anger about that is why, it's just a small part of it. But if I'll take care of those little resentments, those little nudges, those little distractions, disturbances, then much less likely of building up into something big. And even in situations, if I have to sue someone over business, I can try to be helpful while it's going on. In other words, let's say it was a legal deal. I can stick to the facts, you know. I don't have to orchestrate things that are not there. I don't have to come into the situation with resentment. I can take care of those things without anger. This is not talking about, for me, it's not talking about being the pushover. It's talking about whatever situation you're in, come from a place of helpfulness. If somebody's wronging me in business, maybe I can be grateful that I'm dealing with them instead of someone else. And maybe I can stop them from hurting someone else. There's all kinds of ways to look at these things without just thinking that you've got to just, you know, do nothing and be the pushover and, let people take advantage of you. That's not what this is talking about at all. Or for me, it's not. That was good, guys. Thank you. Anything to add? Okay. Well, you guys have a great week, and we will see you next week. Thank you. Hello, this is Buddy C. I wanted to make you aware of several recovery-related resources that I've posted in the episode description. These resources include a list of recovery podcasts, a free sober meditation app, daily recovery email, shared Google recovery calendars. Hope you put some of these resources to use and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Tao of Our Understanding Recovery Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends in recovery.